I want to welcome Christine Brown, Jenni Cochran, Mark Lawrence, Tristan Hunt, and this is moderated by Greg Marshall. So off you go, guys. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks everyone for turning out for the first panel of the day. Staying sane in the game. So I'm Greg from the Association for Electronic Music, and one of our key initiatives is protecting the mental and physical health of fans and professionals. So over the next hour or so, we'll be discussing the subject of mental health in the dance music community. With the tragic death of Avicii earlier this year, it brought health in the industry into sharp focus. And so we'll be looking at some of the challenges faced by music professionals in particular. I guess one of the points of doing a panel like this is just a key message is to highlight that it's okay to talk about mental health and that how common the issues or experiencing issues can be, and that there's help and support for people if times get really hard. So I'm joined today by a panel of industry veterans with a wealth of experience. If we just start with some introductions, if you wouldn't mind just telling us who you are and a little bit about what you do, that'd be great.
Hi everyone, my name's Jenni Cochran. I am the Director of Culture and Partnerships at AEI Group and co-founder of Get Ahead. AEI is a big multi-music media organisation built up of YouTube channels, record labels, publishing company, live events and festivals. The stem of our business comes from drum and bass and now multi-genre electronic music. A big focus for us internally is the culture, health and well-being of our staff. We've been putting a big spotlight on it for the last couple of years, rolling out new initiatives for the team, making sure that they stay mentally, physically happy at all times. And more recently, this year, partnered up with a big tech company and launched a new initiative called Get Ahead, which is the first ever 24-hour Festival of the Head. In its most simplest terms, it's a 24-hour pick and mix of events encompassing health, well-being, education, outreach, all different pillars of sort of how to get ahead in life without burning out. And we partnered with Help Musicians on it, and we've been doing a number of other initiatives of which we've actually worked with the AFEM on as well, so we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Christine Brown. I'm Director of External Affairs at Help Musicians UK. Help Musicians UK, for those of you that aren't aware, is the leading independent music charity in the UK, primarily looking after the health and welfare of those who work in the British music industry. It was last year that we launched Music Minds Matter, a campaign, a mental health campaign, to really look at mental health within the music industry, and we launched the first 24/7 helpline specifically for people working in music, hence why I'm here today. So I'm looking forward to telling you a bit more about it.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Mark Lawrence. I advise to the Association for Electronic Music, and I owner and director of Black Rock Publishing. And it was actually 2 years ago, almost to the day, at IMS Malta, that I took a phone call whilst on the balcony from Dan Tate at Pioneer. And he pitched the idea of a documentary to me about mental health and surrounding issues within the dance music community. And they'd gone reasonably far in terms of the list of people they wanted in the documentary, but needed, some guidance and support on it. And ironically, the next thing that happened was I was at dinner, and I think it was when Pete Tong was here, and I sat next to Pete. And Pete looked at my phone and could see this email that I was drafting to Dan to confirm my thoughts. He's like, can I get involved in that? And that was really the trigger point, literally, one of those random moments, and it was here that we really finalised how Slaves to the Rhythm, the Pioneer documentary would work. And then as that evolved, it took about 2 years to get it together. And obviously then we brought in Help Musicians as well, and everything kind of aligned itself. I think by the time we premiered that at IMS to a small number of key players in the industry and refined it a little bit for ADE, it became a very poignant piece. And then, of course, if you then contrast that with the fact that there are sections of that film with Avicii in it, it then became even more poignant.
Hi there, I'm Tristan Hunt, Regional Manager for the Association for Electronic Music. I co-chair a working group on mental health and physical health for AFEM. It was started in response to the need that our industry has for a greater level of care and help for well-being within our industry. We have a working group encompassing people from countries all around the world. This isn't just a UK issue, it's a global issue. It affects absolutely everyone. So we've put in place a number of different initiatives, tools, hints, tips, practical things that people can do to look after their health whilst maintaining peak performance.
Wonderful, thanks very much. Christine, so you were involved in commissioning a recent study that Can Music Make You Sick? And subsequently delivering the mental health support line that you mentioned in response to that. Could you just help set the scene for us a bit? Tell us what the sort of the key issues were from that report and yeah, just provide a broad overview.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, as I've said, I work for Help Musicians UK. It's not just a mental health charity, it's a charity that has actually existed since 1921, looking after the health and welfare of those working in music. But it was in 2016 that we saw a significant increase in calls around mental health specifically. And we wanted really to drill down more into the issue, and to date, no research had existed on music and mental health. So Can Music Make You Sick was born, really, and what it was looking into is, what was making people sick? What was the relationship between music and mental health? Out of that, we had over 2,200 people responded to the survey across the UK, all genres, not just specific to electronic music, because we look after all genres and all sides of the industry. And from that, 70% of people came back and said that they had had some type of depression or anxiety, which I think was quite shocking to us as a charity. And so benchmarking that against the general public, that suggests that people who work in music are 3 times more likely to have some type of mental health issue or challenge, whether it's anxiety, depression, or any kind of related issues. So, and kind of the symptoms or the reasons really were, it's a 24/7 industry. It's a precarious one. It's how, the challenges of being able to switch off, being away from home a lot, not being able to balance not just finances, but say relationships. There are lots of challenges or lots of things that came to the fore in that research. So yeah, money worries, being away from home, the toll it took on relationships, the toll it took on oneself in terms of their exhaustion. Specifically, say in electronic music, it was around the feeling of isolation. So lots of things came to the fore, as I've said, and it was the first study of its kind. So I think what we've been able to do, which is amazing, is put this discussion at the forefront of people's minds. And here we are today, and I think it's incredible that IMS College are giving us a platform to discuss these issues.
Great. Tristan, Christine touched on a number of points there, and you head up the working group for mental and physical health at AFEM. Can you just tell us a little bit more about what's happening there to either help address these issues or raise awareness?
Yeah, absolutely. So to follow on from what Christine was saying, 20 years ago, we weren't having this conversation. 20 years ago, hedonism was probably, if we're honest with ourselves, the sort of dominant approach to our industry by people at all levels, and there wasn't a conversation around mental and physical health. And that's changed latterly, and the amount of emphasis which the industry is now giving it is significant. Already this year we've seen the Brighton Music Conference host panels on it. Beats Evolution Conference in Prague earlier, which Jenni runs, also gave this focus as well. So it's a drum and bass orientated conference. And then IMS this year, earlier in May, changed the game by basically having a keynote address on mental health. And the impact on the people that were there was significant. The commercial issues and all of the things that we know are important to our development were still key. But for once, mental health was at the top of the agenda. We have been working with a number of different people to put in place resources like the mental health line, which Christine mentioned. We've partnered with Help Musicians to share that with our community. And then providing just simple everyday advice to people on what they can do to look after themselves, hints and tips, things which people can apply and use to make their lives better.
Wonderful. And Jenni, you can't have mine. So you oversee the programming at Beats Evolution and Get Ahead Festival, and you mentioned sort of what you were doing internally, sort of with the human resources and culture there to look after your staff. And can you sort of just dig into that a little bit in terms of what you're doing on the internal basis and also sort of the raising awareness to a broader audience?
Sure, yeah. So Beats Evolution Conference it's actually a bass music dedicated conference which happens in Prague once a year, which dovetails a big drum and bass festival which we are involved with. So for the past 3 years, it's been predominantly workshops, seminars, keynotes, panel discussions, never really with any kind of spotlight on any kind of health and well-being at all. And as I sort of mentioned, we launched Get Ahead Festival this year. So it seemed natural for us to, as I say, curate and host a panel at Beats Evolution Conference relating to mental health. Obviously, Avicii passed this year, but there was also a handful of artists, big names, big love names in the drum and bass world who we lost as well this year and last year. So for us, it seemed like a great opportunity to sort of, say thank you to them, have a look at them, and obviously talk about Get Ahead, which we did, which Tristan was involved with as well. So we'll be doing more of that at BEC, both in the UK and in Prague. But yeah, Get Ahead, as I say, is the big thing for us now. It's the first of its kind in terms of the event that we put on. It was hosted in London. The curation itself, it kicked off at 6 o'clock in the morning and finished at 6 o'clock in the morning, which ironically, is that right for people in the health? But we don't know. But it was great. Yeah, it was a test. It was an experiment for us. We turned it around in 11 weeks. It was an opportunity for us to create something new and something unique, which would touch the hearts of lots of different industries. So we're in partnership with a tech company. We are obviously the music partner in it. And it was great because we teamed up with Help Musicians. We worked with a number of other experts, organisations and charities within the health and wellbeing space, which enabled us to kind of push collaboration, get everyone working together, and ultimately raise awareness of mental health and wellbeing across the board. The event was great. I should have brought a video actually and shown you. And we had just under 1,000 people through the doors, which for year one was incredible. And our sort of commitment with the project is to positively impact 1 billion people in the next 25 years. The ambition is for London to become the South by Southwest of mental health and wellbeing, for it to grow every single year, and with that every year for us to introduce new partners into the mix. So we're not a charity, just to point that out. Get Ahead it's a social enterprise, and it's like an umbrella organisation to bring together charities, people, organisations that work within the health and wellbeing space. Ultimately, as we said, to amplify the message about how to look after yourself, how to get signposting, where to go, who to speak to, and obviously coming from a music background, music plays a huge part in that. So we actually launched an album off the back of Get Ahead as well, which was a bit of a crazy initiative that we turned around in a few weeks. We actually partnered up with Help Musicians on that album, and 18 massive artists from the world of drum and bass, including Prodigy, Chasing Status, Subfocus, you name it, all donated tracks for free because it was going to a good cause and it was actually going back to musicians. So yeah, it's a really, really exciting initiative, something that we're not stopping anytime soon. Just building a team, making it bigger and bigger. We want to get the message out there. We want to help people. We want to support people across the board. And talk to people about, these pillars that can help you in life. Look after yourself, eat well, sleep well. Don't burn out, because that's our key message, is how can you sort of get ahead in life without burning out. So, yeah, it's
wonderful. Just specifically digging into the programming, what kind of sessions were occurring at Get Ahead?
So the morning kicked off 6 till 9 was a pre-work sober yoga rave. So we teamed up with a couple of incredible fitness influencers who work with Adidas. They're actually ambassadors for Adidas. They curated an incredible 3-hour program, bringing in some unbelievable sports and fitness people. We had acro aerobics, hip hop yoga, boxercise classes, and to my surprise, we had a queue around the block at 5:30 in the morning. because the appetite now for these kind of events where people want to go, they want to exercise before work, they want to party, but do it in a sober, fun way. You know, it's engaging, it's community building. It was something like I hadn't seen, and obviously there's a lot of these events that operate in that space now which are doing very, very well. So we wanted to kind of put our spin on it. And then we went into daytime sessions. We worked with the Chimp Paradox management people who did the famous Chimps at Work book. We teamed up with Calm, the app. So Michael Acton-Smith came and did a keynote speech, which was unbelievable. We had 4 different panels tackling all different subjects, including well-being workplace, well-being in the workplace, addiction in the entertainment industry, Help Musicians curated an amazing panel. So we really tackled lots of different subjects about how to kind of deal with issues if you've got them, but also a lot of kind of preventative stuff about how to know the signs and how to look out for them if you are, you know, well and happy just now, but could be potentially the tipping point. Then we had lots of exercise classes. We teamed up with Melody Kane from One Extra, and she did her big class. We then did the tech off. And then we had an all-night party, which was the album launch for Mind State, the album. But in addition, we had meditation, we had massage, we had drinks with counsellors. We tried to sort of cover as many interesting and relevant topics within the 24-hour period. And it was great. Every session was packed. People came back and gave us unbelievable feedback. Yeah, it was great. I mean, there's a lot more we need to do. We're going to be working with more mental health charities going forward. And it's great. The sort of interest and goodwill around supporting the project has been completely mind-blowing. So it's quite overwhelming at the moment.
Yeah, a completely holistic approach, and
Yeah.
it's just great that there's such an appetite for it. Thanks for that. Mark, so you were deeply involved in, you mentioned the producing the Slaves to the Rhythm, Why We DJ documentary, which really touches on the health issues mainly on very successful touring DJs and the like. Can you tell us a bit about just sort of what your main takeaways were from being involved in that process?
Yeah, I think what it really triggered for me, and I think for many people in the scene, was that mental health is the ultimate leveler within electronic music, and how much you earn doesn't dictate how much you're protected against mental health issues. If you're aspiring or climbing up the ladder or fighting to stay at the top, the issues are the same. Long nights, lots of travel, often by yourself. A lot of those long nights are accompanied by a lack of sleep, some of which is supported and aided by drugs and alcohol, some of it isn't. Away from your family, a cycle of kind of creative friction within yourself, because undoubtedly there are facets to a creator that need a kind of an emotional fracture to really make the most of your art. And you know, working with so many writers myself, you can kind of see this fracture, this yin and yang within creators, which is how they can make music so well. And if you now have a situation where producers who previously used to sit and make music all day but never really had to go out in front of thousands of people, and now going out in front of thousands of people as a DJ, I think it was I mean, it wasn't in the documentary, but this kind of introvert extrovert, Seth Troxler, and said, you know, my natural state is to be introverted, but I have to be extroverted as soon as I'm behind the decks. So you see throughout the documentary DJs having to sort of come out of a weird sleep pattern where they've been traveling for 12 hours, go and get 3 hours sleep, and then get into a club environment where they've literally just woken up and the party is in full swing and they have to come up to that level to be able to perform. So there's a very dangerous mix in all of this. And I think what that documentary did for those that participated, for those that produced it, was act as a catalyst, a sort of awareness of things that are blindingly obvious if you stare at them, but sometimes those blindingly obvious things have to be made public so people can go, okay, right. And then, you know, sadly, a crisis normally triggers change. And so the documentary came out at ADE. It was heavily supported by YouTube. It had incredible viral plays. You know, it was very, very powerful. And then, of course, sadly, the tragic passing of Avicii really just, you know, that was 2 weeks before IMS, that just put a whole new focus on it. And, of course, his participation in it. And actually, if you watch it back and watch the segment where I think there's Pete saying, when I saw Avicii and his team, every second counted. He was literally, they were clock watching everything. And it shoots to him leaving the Pasha Hotel, being interviewed by somebody going, it's 2 minutes until I'm on, and then he's literally jittery because they got him into such a place that every second of his time when he was awake counted, and he was awake most of the day. So, I think now there's a lot of introspection within those that are more senior in the community, be it music, DJ, industry, and I think hopefully what that's starting to do is to spread down into sort of the further generations of the dance music community without hypocrisy. It's recognition that things have to change, and you're seeing more and more people go, actually, no, it's time to take care. It's not about being perfect. I think everybody's work in progress, but it's about making the steps to take care of yourself and those around you.
And the focus of the documentary was very much on a certain tier of artist and DJ. And do you think, I mean, this is a question to the whole panel, really. Are the issues the same across the spectrum of success? I mean, do you think that aspiring artists can relate to what's going on in that documentary?
Yeah, I think the only thing that came out initially was people going, why am I being lectured by a bloke that's probably worth 60 million when I've only got a fiver? But actually, mental health's got nothing to do with your income. It's got everything to do with your environment and your personality and what you choose to do with your life and what those around you do or don't do with you. So I think everyone's got past that now, because mental health isn't a dance music issue, it's a society issue. It's the greatest killer of men. Suicide's the greatest killer of men under 40. Depression is everywhere. We process or have to process more data in a day than we used to in a lifetime. Our brains are simply not keeping up with the development of the society and the technology around us. So it's the thing that's going to break first. So what happened, certainly personally, after the documentary was Facebook, Messenger, email, WhatsApp went nuts with people writing to me going, at last, thank you, because now I can talk. I've got my permission slip to talk about it. And I'm talking from industry veterans to young kids that we published that are 3 tracks in and 21, everybody said thank you, because now I can put my hand up and say, yeah, well, one of those issues is mine, and now I know who to call, now I know where to go. So for me, that was my personal experience afterwards.
Excellent. And anybody else with a perspective on that? I mean,
I was just going to say, I think sometimes it actually can be more dangerous for younger kids or new people getting into the industry, because they probably go over and above the call of duty to party and integrate themselves into the industry to try and be accepted. And there is probably that thought that, if I stay out with the promoters late, or I stick in a studio with the artist I'm producing with or something, and I get involved with whatever, then that's going to make me more successful. And I think there is a lot of a danger to the new aspiring people who think that actually they have to get themselves on that level to be accepted and actually to break into the big game with the bigger boys. Where now almost, 5-10 years ago, even a couple of years ago, the done thing was to go and party and to stay up all night, where now the done thing is to get to bed and feel fresh in the morning. And I think it's about how we can educate those new people into the industry that it's all right to do that, and that it's okay to go home and actually wake up in the morning and having had 6, 7, 8 hours sleep, and not have to stay up all night partying because it's okay not to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's very important that young and aspiring artists are aware that they need to kind of create their own personal culture that works for them, and it helps if this is a broader topic that is discussed, and it's not just across the board that this is, that the hedonistic and party culture is the only way to get involved here. Everybody has very different tolerances and reacts very different to different environments, different chemicals, and so yeah, it's just being aware of your own personal signals. And doing what's right for you, rather than just doing going with the flow and ending up with a problem. Agreed. Kind of just to putting people on the spot a little bit, but just to make it a little bit more personal, and give a perspective on this. I mean, just a quick show of hands from the panelists. So just raise your hand if you've experienced a mental health issue at some point in your life personally. Thanks for your honesty. And then to put the entire room on the spot as well. I mean, if you've experienced a mental health issue of some sort, or know somebody personally that has, could you raise your hand? That's most people. So this kind of points to how at some point in a lot of people's lives, to differing degrees, this touches everyone, and so talking about it and is important. But what can or should we be doing?
Well, can I just say as well, sorry to cut in,
No,
but
please do.
The fact that 75% of people put their hands up brilliantly and honestly about mental health points on something that's quite interesting, is that if you're sat in an office and someone walks in on crutches, you help them sit down in their chair and you go, mate, are you all right? What did you do? Oh, I tore my leg. If someone walks into the office and announces that they have a mental health issue, everyone will walk off into a different corner and will go, I don't know what I'm doing here. Yet 75% of people at any given time have got a mental health issue. If that's triggered by financial issues, relationship issues, it is simply no different to a physical ailment. It's not mental health, and it's almost the tag that's wrong. It's just something that you need support fixing, and it's quite often, it's transient, it's not permanent. There's support networks everywhere, and the most important thing is don't suffer in silence. And because that's only going to make it worse. And I would imagine that everyone that put their hand up probably suffered that mental health issue in silence for far too long before somebody either stepped in or they stepped in to help themselves.
Yeah, I think talking, the fact that you were able to put your hands up, the fact that we put our hands up actually, I'm not sure that, for me personally, I've definitely had my own struggles, which is why I'm so passionate about mental health in the music industry, and why I really strove to put Music Minds Matter in place so that people didn't have to suffer in silence, as you said. But I've said talking is definitely one of the things that will help people the most, knowing that you're not alone. So which is kind of ironic, given that I've put Music Minds Matter campaign and mental health service in place. But I told people in our organisation, actually, it was a year ago, to be completely honest, that I had a breakdown. I felt vulnerable. I felt like I was letting myself down. I felt like a failure. Even though I was putting this mental health service in place, I felt all of those things. I thought, I'm a director of Help Musicians UK. I shouldn't be feeling like this, or I shouldn't have a mental health problem. But being able to tell people at Help Musicians that I'd had an issue, being able to say that I was off work because I was struggling, actually people looked at me and thought, oh, you're leading by example. That's amazing. That was so powerful for me. And so I'd say that being able to just admit to yourself or to other people that you might be struggling is probably one of the most important things that you'll admit to yourself, but one of the most important steps that you'll ever kind of take. So yeah, I'd say talking. Music Minds Matter, for those, I haven't really talked about it, it came out of the research. Can music make you sick? Because I've identified that people in music are 3 times more likely to have a mental health issue. And one of the recommendations that came from the study was that people in music didn't have anywhere to go. So maybe we could mitigate some of these suicides. Maybe we can make changes and help people in the future. But Music Minds Matter provides a 24/7 helpline where you have a listening ear. If you're in the UK, it's free, it's confidential, and as well as that, you can have free therapies, free counselling. So I think, I'd say talking is really important, but also I think as an industry, we need to be able to tell people where they can go if they're struggling.
And I'd just add to that, Christine, I think your story is representative of the wider industry now. People like Ben Pearce, when he came out and admitted to having mental health issues, the amount of support that he got from his fans was massive. And I think there's been a misconception for a long time that if you're coming up or you're starting your career, you can't talk about these things because it's going to impede your career, people are going to look down on you, or there's going to be some negative repercussions, and that's just not the case now. You know, the industry is very much in your corner. So, as both Christine and Jenni highlighted, the biggest tool you've got is the ability to talk to your friends, your managers, your colleagues, to reach out to them and connect. Because as soon as you do that, it takes you out of being in your own headspace and you're able to get help.
I think in addition to talking about it, there's some really basic, fundamental things which you can do, which you wouldn't think actually can help, is, you know, eat well, look after what you put in your body. What you put in your body has a huge impact on your mind and how it makes you feel. Sleep is the number one thing at the moment, which we're all really bad at doing, but good at talking about. We actually had a guy in from a work wellbeing company the other day to talk to our team about it. And he talked all through the bits of sleep and the bits that are important and everything, and you know what happens to you, what happens to your sleep when you drink, or blah 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 blah. And he went through all these different scenarios. And we were, I mean, you think you know this stuff, but actually when you get the facts laid down in front of you, we were absolutely gobsmacked to know that probably in an operation of 45 people, probably 90% of us don't get the right amount of sleep or get the wrong kind of sleep. And it really is one of the foundations to making your mind healthy. You know, it's things like stay physically healthy. You know, if you're not into exercise, just try and walk places. You know, get as much sort of day-to-day exercise as you can. All of these really basic things help with your mental health as well. If you feel physically good, then that's going to help what's going on in your mind as well. So yeah, you know, do bear all of that in mind as well.
Brilliant. Just so it's great the honesty that's coming across from the panel. You know, what you were saying there, Christine, was just amazing, quite, you know, inspirational. And I think being able to share that kind of thing with an audience, being able to share that kind of a story with a very close and personal friend can be very difficult. So, you know, what you've done there is, you know, exemplary. I'd like to sort of make this a bit more interactive, if possible. So, you know, to bring the audience into this one. And so, does anyone have any insights that they'd like to share, either around overcoming a period of personal poor mental health, or about supporting a colleague in the industry that might have been affected by some of the issues discussed today? That's fine. Oh, there's somebody there, because this is a tricky subject. Would you like a mic? You can have my mic.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Ryan. About mental issues, I can say from my appointment is that if maybe the best thing is to get help from your closer friends or family. I think it's one of the good options what can be used for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think just to chip in there and to follow on from what Jenni was saying, just quick show of hands, who here looks at an electronic device within 15 minutes of waking up? Yeah, so pretty much everyone, right? So, yeah, so this is a great point in terms of sleep and also control of your day. It is just not being dominated by those devices, keeping them outside of your bedroom if at all possible, or just having them on airplane mode and not using them. If you get up and you orientate your day first, whatever that might mean for you, whether that's doing some exercise, having breakfast, yoga, meditation, or just making a list of what you need to do before you actually go ahead and turn on that device and get those emails, you're going to be far more in control of your day rather than being reactive. You'll be proactive and you'll be doing something that you want to do in a controlled way. So there's little things like that that you can throw into your working day which just help give you a bit more control.
It's really simple. But someone said to me, like, disconnect to reconnect, which really stuck with me. It's a bit like, so if your TV's not working, what do? We say, oh, I know, we'll turn it off and turn it on again. It'll work again. And it's what we don't do is do that for ourselves. It's like, yeah, disconnect. And it's a challenge because, yeah, we do. We look at our devices. We're in an industry, and I don't mean just the music industry, but actually a society where, yeah, everything's just at our fingertips, and it's 24/7. We've got Instagram. It's lively, but I think we have to challenge ourselves or make a promise to ourselves to disconnect. And no, and what I would say, just from my own perspective, again, just talking personally, I'm about to go on 2 weeks holiday. I've made a promise to myself that my work phone will go off. It's okay. What's going to happen? What's the worst that can happen? And I think that, yeah, disconnect to reconnect. It's something that stuck with me.
I won't talk for very long. I was just going to say, I said to Chrissy yesterday, when you come back, delete all your emails. I did that. I went away for 3 weeks, deleted all my. It takes a lot of courage to do that. Anyway, just a quick question. I think we've come a long, long way with health and well-being for musicians, and thanks to you guys, it's been fantastic. If only we had this 25 years ago, I know that I would have benefited from that. The next generation of music makers, there's a lot of specialist music colleges, further and higher education, but it's at higher education level. But it's still a shame to see that occupational health and well-being is not embedded into the curriculum. Now, if we want to raise awareness before it's too late, it's great what we're doing in other areas, but surely this should be all these colleges and universities. What more can we do to instigate that, do you think?
I was just going to say, John, to your point yesterday, so it's Jono from ACS, you were talking about intervention at schools, whereby people are given the information they need to make an informed decision. And at the moment, tinnitus is obviously a massive issue in our industry. Children aren't educated about that, but we educate them, like you said in your panel talk yesterday, about sex and drugs and all of these other things. But looking after your hearing, something that's so fundamental, one of our key senses, is not discussed when increasingly people are being exposed at a younger age to high-pressure sound level environments. So I think to your point there, what can be done? We can have greater education at schools from an earlier age.
And also with the tinnitus thing, the mental health issues, as you know yourself, the work I've done with the British Tinnitus Association, the gateway period of people initially getting tinnitus, they're more vulnerable to suicide, as we know. So there's a mental health issue there. I think just general health and well-being in music, if you're studying music, it should be there, Sure.
I think we're very lucky, or very fortunate in electronic music that it's a relatively young genre, and you could probably add up the number of people that work in electronic music and not get to that bigger number. So the ability to make change is swift, and it can be global very quickly because we're such an online community. So within the space of the last year, you now see companies like Toolroom with their academy including more of this. Not a whole day, but just beginning to sow the seed that this isn't just about learning how to mix or DJ or engineer. There's a session on more. And I think the same in Point Blank now. So you're starting to see the introduction of very human-focused support and education in what was previously very, very technical courses. And ironically, of course, because most of the people who are leading those organizations are all people that would have put their hands up. And so, as I say, everyone's had the permission slip now, and so it's now coming down through the dance music-focused education groups.
I read a study yesterday, actually, completely fresh off the course. 1 in 3 kids at school now have mental health issues, which is absolutely terrifying, and that's obviously down to across-the-board problems. But 1 in 3 kids, that's kids under the age of what, 12, 13, 14? And that is a terrifying number. So I think all of us have got that responsibility to collaborate, to work together, to sort of amplify the message, not just for people at our age, but to get to people as young as possible. The statistics of kids who have suicide attempts under the age of 10, all these numbers are absolutely terrifying. So definitely agree, more has to be done for kids as young as possible to get to them and have them that understanding before, they start having problems.
And just to jump in there, but one of the things that's on our radar from the AFEM's perspective, there's lots of different tools we've got, but one of them is potentially this relatively new idea of mental health first aiders at work. We're all familiar with St John's Ambulance or other organisations which will train up a member of staff, and virtually every office has a trained first aider, but these new courses offer training in medical mental health, so that there's somebody there in every office who's competent to be able to have a conversation with one of their colleagues and understand if they've got problems, what those problems are, and then to be able to take some positive action to help them. So that's something which is sort of really emerging at the moment, and is a key thing that the industry should be looking at as a duty of care that we all have.
Yeah, duty of care. I absolutely agree. I think, yeah, you said, what can we do? What should we be doing? I think, coming back to talking, being here today, actually, it's a real privilege to be able to not just share what the charity's doing, but to share my own personal story. But I think talking, having the platform at IMS College and other conferences, I think, you talked about IMS, it's amazing that mental health was put front and center at that conference. It shows a real sea change. It shows that it's first of all, it's being recognized as an issue, but that we, as an industry, if we were to represent the industry today, we're telling you that we see that it's important and action is being taken. So the industry is listening. It's being talked about. Pathways are beginning to be formed. So Music Minds Matter is just one of those. So it's to help. So if you look at musicmindsmatter.org.uk, it's a helpline. You can access help. So pathways are being formed. Festivals are being created to actually specifically look at this. I think that there's, positive change is being made. So, but what more can we do? I think more talking, working together, more as an industry, I guess, to look at the duty of care and maybe where people, where the gaps are, and how we can work together to kind of look at the issues and maybe save lives. So it's saving lives in the future.
Thanks very much. I think just to add to that, more listening as well. Talking and more listening.
You got a question, didn't you?
Do you have a question, Graham?
Yeah, I was going to say I really agree with your not looking at data in the morning. I'm very into morning routine, and not looking at my phone until at least 4 or 5 hours into that day. So I was kind of ask if you had something similar, and because I'm very interested in people's morning routines, and around data.
So morning routine. My own morning routine. My own personal, this is me personally, when you're talking about data, in terms of can music make you sick?
Just not looking at your phone and not Instagram and just all that kind of, I literally don't look at it. I wake up at 5 and then don't look at it till 10 because...
I think that's amazing. I think there's a lot in digital detox, right, at the moment. I've made a promise to myself that I won't look at my phone as soon as I get up in the morning. Actually, one thing that's, because we're talking about what helps you, what helps me, it was actually IMS that Remedy State was launched, which was a retreat for the first time for those who were in the creative industries, and you were able to access meditation and all different types of sessions. And I, for the first time, had a breathing workshop. Right, I know that sounds...
It's good for you. So I do it regularly.
Okay, yeah, breathing workshop. So what I do in the morning now is after IMS, Ibiza, and learning how to breathe properly, I get up in the morning, don't look at my phone, and do 100 breaths. Right. 100 breaths equates to 4 minutes of your time each day. It's not difficult, but what you do via breath, it's like you basically get rid of all the tension that you're carrying in your body. Set you up for the day. That's my own personal routine. I've had to learn not to look at the little box of death.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add to your conversation. About 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with leukemia through essentially my lifestyle within the music industry. And perhaps if this conversation was going on 10 years ago, it may have steered me in a different direction. So I just think it's really valuable that everything that you're doing and talking about today is really important.
Thanks very much, Paul. I think, have we run out of time, Danny? We have. Okay, thank.
Could I just ask what the numbers were for the helpline and maybe the name of the film again, because I've forgotten those.
Yeah, but the film was Slaves to the Rhythm, Why We DJ, and it's on DJ Sounds and on Pioneer. You can go on YouTube and find it, and it's 47 minutes well spent. I think it's fair to say, and and I was part of it, but I've watched it 10 or 15 times, and every time I watch it, it's still striking. There's still something that resonates. So I'd urge everybody, Slaves to the Rhythm, Why We DJ, and either DJ Sounds or Pioneer.
Yeah, I'd absolutely support watching the documentary, actually. Really, really powerful. So Help Musicians UK. Music Minds Matter is the helpline. If you look at musicmindsmatter.org.uk, the numbers there, it's 24/7. Like I say, if you're in the UK, it's completely free. It's completely confidential. It launched last year, and just to highlight, because you talked about specifically males, I think male suicide is something that's being talked about a lot, and actually through the numbers of our helpline, we're finding that it's predominantly males who are calling the line. So what I'd say is, look at the website. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to be in crisis, actually. You can just call up and talk to someone. Yeah, it's 0808 802 8008. But yeah, like I say, the helpline, 24/7. But you can also email, because some people don't want to talk about it, and that's not kind of an instant response, but kind of 48 hours. But do look it up, Music Minds Matter.
Okay. Great, thank you, Greg. Thanks, guys. Really interesting. It's funny Christine, it's funny that you should talk about the breathing workshop at Remedy. I know during IMS, so many people came to me after that workshop saying that it was absolutely incredible. So, yeah. Cool. Great. Thank you, guys. Lovely.